Hi, this is Eric Stromquist. Welcome to Control Talk Now, your smart buildings videocast and podcast for the week ending February 19th, 2023. Hey, for all you people that reached out last week, I want to start off by saying a very, very special thank you for all your words of encouragement. And I'm glad you guys are digging the new format on Control Talk Now, the smart buildings videocast and podcast. It will evolve, but it got me thinking. Things have changed a lot since Ken and I did the first podcast 15 years ago. Back then, there was no Zoom, there was no team meetings, there was Skype, but if I wanted to interview, if Ken and I had two guests, I had to have 4 computers, 4 separate instances of Skype running, a boatload of cables and adapters coming into a mixer, some complicated mix minus stuff I had to do. Basically, it took about an hour to set it up before we could even hit the record button, and then we just prayed that everything was going to work out. So it's changed a lot. And I mention that because now with Zoom, it's very, very easy to do a podcast. We've got a lot of great podcasts in our industry now, which is really, really cool. But one of the things that's changed is that back before COVID, people had long commutes to work or back. And so it made a lot of sense. They would pop a Control Talk Now podcast in, and we were very conscious of doing long form, meaning we went longer. We went about over an hour on our podcast. And it made sense, right? Because people didn't have that many podcasts to choose from. And you guys will also remember pre-COVID, we had these things called commutes. A lot of us had very long commutes. It might be an hour to work, an hour back from work. With that, it made sense. So Monday morning, you get up, you get in the car, you put Control Talk Now on. By the time you get to work, you've got the control news you can use for the week. You're good to go. You're ready to start your week. Well, guess what? Not many people have commutes anymore. And if they do, they don't commute every day. So many people now are working from home. And guess what? They're working from home on Zoom or Skype or Microsoft Teams. So they really need a break from all the information. Too much information is almost as bad as not enough information. And that's what I'm hearing from people over and over. It's just too much, too much, too much. So how can we make control trends? So how can we make Control Talk different? Well, I was thinking about that. We still need information. It needs to be useful information, but I've decided that Control Talk Now is going to be shorter. I'm going to go 30 minutes or less every week. I'm going to try to have really interesting, useful guests. In the past, we sort of cycled through the same guest all the time, and it wasn't that they weren't great guests and not still great guests. It's just that it's the same sort of perspectives. So going forward, I'm going to try to get as many different types of guests on the show as I can and offer as many different perspectives as I can as things go on. The second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start dropping the show on Sunday night. And what I mean by dropping is I'm going to start publishing the episode. In the past, I just waited until Monday morning because people were driving to work on Monday morning and it made sense. By the time they got to work, they had the podcast and they had the information they needed. So if you're like me, Sunday night after I've sort of had the weekend, around 10 o'clock or so, I like to sit down and sort of get the pen and paper out, figure out what I want to accomplish in the upcoming week. My hope is that with Control Talk Now, make this part of your Sunday night routine. And to sort of aid in that, I'm going to break the podcast down so that in the first 5 to 7 minutes, I sort of have the hot takes, the things that I think you need to know in the upcoming week. It could be price increases, it could be conferences, it could be training sessions that are coming up, it could be messages from manufacturers about products, but the point being, what I want to do is give you that first 5 to 7 minutes. So if nothing else, you can listen to the first 5 to 7 minutes, have a feel for the events coming up in the next week that you want to be aware of. Okay, so it's in that spirit, things you need to know in the upcoming week. So first up on things you want to be aware of this week, Belimo has a webinar coming up Tuesday, February 28th from 12 to 12:30. Steve Lopes will be talking about the 8 advantages of the Belimo butterfly valve. All right, we're getting to conference season. The first big conference is going to be ControlsCon. Scott Cochran and his team at Cochran Supply will be putting that on. That conference will be April 27th and 28th in Detroit, Michigan. Next big conference that I think is going to be really fascinating is going to be the Haystack Connect Conference, which is going to be in Nashville, Tennessee, June 5th through the 7th. And then the big one, Realcomm Ibicon. Jim Young and his team are going to be rocking it out in Vegas this year, June 13th through the 15th at Caesars Palace. That should be a great, great conference. TCS, Temperature Control Systems, has their spring technical course in Madison, Wisconsin. That'll be March 27th through the 29th. And season 2 of the Building Geniuses podcast, my friend Tim Vogel, just dropped last week. You can get that now. His first guest was Jim Young from Railcon Ibicon, so I encourage you to check that out. Honeywell had an announcement this week on their Spider PVL controllers. On some of the units, there might have been incorrect configuration on the universal input, so check that out. Again, I'll have a link to that in the show notes so you can check it out. And speaking of Spider training, if you're looking to get trained on Spider, my favorite distributor, Stromquist & Company, has an online, on-demand Spider training program. I'll put a link to that. Other training before you, that of course will make sense to you. So there you go. Those are the hot links. And in the future, I've created a special email link. So if you have an announcement you need to make to the Control Trends community, you can hit me up at controltrendshotline@gmail.com. And like I said, I'll either shout it out or I'll make sure it gets in the show notes. So that's that. So let's get on to our guests this week. I am so excited today. I got two great guests from New Zealand. They were here at AHR in Atlanta here about a week or so ago. I'd like to introduce them, man. They got some really cool products and some great messages for the industry. So it's my pleasure to introduce to the Control Trends community, Brian Collins and Elwin McKay Smith from OpSys Solutions down in New Zealand. Welcome, guys. Thanks for taking a few minutes to speak.
Eric.
Thanks for having us, Eric. Good to see you back on the air.
Yeah, well, it's good to be back, guys. It's good to be back. And, Brian, I can't wait to chop it up with you because, you're doing a lot of marketing. But Elwin, I want to start with you, man. So, you started this company, which we'll get into in a few minutes. But why do you want to be on the show? Talk to me a little bit about what you guys are all about.
Followed the show for years. And it was our pinnacle to get on, man. And we were really stoked. I mean, we're super keen to kind of contribute. Watched a lot of the shows that you've done, and we think we've got something to contribute. We play in a lot of different fields, and we're super keen.
I mean, when I was doing the research on you guys are contributing a lot of really timely information. Brian, you and I sort of have an affinity for marketing. So talk to me a little bit about what you're seeing regarding marketing before we get into chop it up with the products.
I think it's probably no surprise to most people in this industry that the marketing lacks a little bit of a flash, a little bit of flavor, right? I mean, it's not that great. There's no group of people, there's no industry that deserves good marketing more than the people that run our buildings and make it a great place to work and do all of the invisible things that we take for granted every day. And so one of the things that we bring, aside from trying to sell products, is to try and bring the message that this industry is important, that it's often overlooked, and that we have wonderful stories to tell. And so that's the thing that the message that we sort of bring forward. And marketing is one way to do that. It is the way to bring your message to the people, right? And to build your brand.
One thing that's a passion for me, and I think it might be a passion for you too, is here we got, Silicon Valley just essentially out marketing us for talent. And they're selling them on the idea of, hey, come change the world. Whereas if they come to work with Elwin or you guys are in our industry, I mean, you are changing the world, right? And you got the data to back it up.
No, I absolutely agree. 100%. I think that what has happened is the Silicon Valley has sold this idea to millennials in particular that you could change the world through this social media app, through this ride-sharing app, et cetera, right? And it's an extremely powerful message. And we're working on a piece right now, an article that sort of makes the argument that I don't know how successful has that change been, right? It's certainly changed our world, but not all for the good, right? But if you really want to change people's lives, this industry is one that you want to send your CV to. It's the one you want to apply to. It's the industry that makes sure that the people that actually are working on apps and things can actually do that. I mean, the miles and miles of cabling and the controllers and the interoperability that's needed, right? And we need to tell this story. We need to tell the story to the people who have been laid off in these tech industries who are looking for jobs. And we need to say, you need to come over here, man. There's something important. If you really want to change the world, you'll come over here.
Yeah, leave the cubicle and change the world, right, Elwin?
That's it. That's it.
Well, Elwin, let's get into it now, man. Tell me about your backstory. So before you started the company, what were you doing, and how did you come up with the idea for the company?
Well, I've been in the game for about 23 years. Come from a system integrator, basically. So we've been doing building controls for quite some time. And then really, it kind of came out of the need to innovate. So we had a project going way back in 2011 where the customer had a multi-tenanted building, and the customer would kind of argue around who hit the button and who should take the charge. They had a lot of common areas that they used. And so, every month the owner would come to them and say, hey, here's the bill for the after hours air conditioning. So one was the city council, and the other one was a quite a dominant or predominant consultancy firm who worked a lot of hours, but they had a lot of shared common space. So the customer said, look, we're going to do this big revamp in the building. We need to think about a better solution, something a little smarter than just a button on the wall, and something that's going to stop some of these disputes that are happening every month. They came to us and said, hey, well, what can we do? What's an idea? So we kind of brainstormed and went, all right, well, let's make a web portal that they log into. And this was kind of Mark 1. Let's get them to book it online and set up a schedule or recurring events. And then we'll come up with an hourly rate, and then we'll add a bit of depreciation in there for the plant. And let's give it a whirl. But the customer who we developed it for went, this is a really cool product. We have similar issues in our other buildings. Let's roll it out. Really liked it. And then over time, we developed an Android app and an iOS app, and then added a bunch of enhancements to it. And then we kind of got a bit of feedback, and people were like, hey, we really like that. We'd like to give it a try as well, but we'd like a few extra features in it. And at the same time, through our journey as the integrator, we'd kind of come up with a bunch of custom apps.
Brian, talk about the nomenclature with the tenant override and how that works.
Yeah, so like from a marketing perspective, I think that you can appreciate this, Eric. So whenever one of the first challenges I met was in trying to market, after hours HVAC is like, what are people searching for? Like if I'm doing SEO, right, and I'm buying Google ads, what are people searching for? So if I put in after hours or tenant override, right, I'm competing with things like technicians people who are looking for someone to come to their house after hours in order to fix their air conditioning or heating, right? And so that's a big battle that we have to have. And it's called something in one country, and then it's called something in a different country. And that makes it really challenging to optimize my keyword searches, for example. So we've done a lot of experimentation around that, and seen what some competitors have called it. But we're still fighting that battle. We do use tenant override occasionally, but it's not really as popular, say, in Australia. They wouldn't really know what that was.
What do they say in Australia? What's their
They'll
nom
usually
de
say,
plume? Right?
they'll usually call it something like after hours, or
Okay.
It might be a combination of tenant after hours override or something like that. So one of the things that we've tried to do, and I guess that every company who has a product like this, is to own that name, right? Yeah. And to be out there and to push it and push it and push it until people just say, oh, okay, it's after hours or it's tenant override, right? And so that's been a big marketing push for us. But
how about you should go pay to play? That should be your thing. Let's stay after hours. Pay to play.
Right. One of our philosophies as a company is sort of to get people to think about HVAC differently. We look at it as sort of an unending resource, and we know in the next 5 or 10 years, it's very likely that it's not going to be seen that way at all. It's going to be extremely expensive. to run, and there's going to have to be a shift in the public understanding that this isn't just something that you just flick on.
And as you know, we got so many skyscrapers here, and we got some workaholics, right? So you get one
Right.
law firm, for example, that comes in, and you're starting up this huge chiller just so that they can work after hours. So by being able to build something like this into the lease, that the owners are protected, right? This concept's been around for a while here, but Elvin, it sounds like you guys got a really kind of slick thing, especially maybe for some of the smaller buildings, right?
Yeah, we're definitely over sort of COVID. We found that the tenants are using the building differently, and the building owners have certainly seen that. And each time that the tenants come up for renegotiation, this whole idea of, hey, everything's going to be in the OpEx or this or this or this, the discussion's kind of changing. And so some of the tenants now are out of the office more than they're in the office. And so now, in some cases, they're going, well, hold on. If you're going to be in the office, why don't you book the air conditioning? Gone with the days where we just turn the air conditioning on every single day, regardless of if you're there or not. No one wins out of that. So in some cases, we've seen them go, right, well, we're going to change the whole building to work like this. And so when they come in, they book it. It's a user pays kind of system, and away they go. So that seems to be definitely the trend.
Okay, you guys have several different product offerings. So, Brian, will you walk us through how you guys go to market?
Sure thing. So as OpSys Solutions, right, we've got 2 or 3 main products. One of them is a 4.3 capacitive touchscreen it's run by a Raspberry Pi, and we call it the Zeno. That's one of our major hardware pieces. For software, because we do hardware and software, our major product is 7Knox, we call it, and it's an after-hours scheduler, after-hours HVAC scheduler. And it basically allows tenants to use a portal or their iPhones or mobile devices to schedule air conditioning, heating after hours. So before 9 a.m. or after 6 p.m., whatever the normal business hours are. And we also do dashboards, energy dashboards, those kind of things, those kind of customized software products for people.
Elwin, let's talk about the product, because it seems like, you got hardware, you got software. It seems like the hardware, interesting enough, is sort of based on Raspberry Pi.
So one of the reasons for going for the Pi was to have a piece of hardware that was available to the SIs locally, so that they could go off and purchase it, and then we could just give them an SD or give them an image, depending on how capable the SI was. And it's something that everyone had available in their market without us having to worry about shipping. And we just wanted to make it easily deployable. So the idea with the Raspberry Pi is the Raspberry Pi runs a little custom application on it, which basically makes it a native BACnet device. And that BACnet device connects to our cloud service and reads the schedules and the packets, and basically creates like a virtual BACnet variables or schedules that they can then use to link to control the plant.
So, Elwin, are you saying then that you buy the Raspberry Pi wherever you are, and then you're actually buying the software from you guys just to download it to it, or are you selling the Raspberry Pi as well?
Yeah, so no, we do both, depending on what they want, but they're also able to just buy a Raspberry Pi from their local market, and then we just give them the image that they can run on the Raspberry Pi. And it has a little web page user interface that they jump on. Once they put the username and credentials into the page, it connects to the cloud service, and then they define the device from the 7Knox application.
Because when you're an SI and you're building a product that you understand what an SI is really looking for as well as an owner, because they're asking you for those products. So, Brian, really, really impressed with the website. Very, very clean. I think it really communicates what you guys are about. It seems like the messaging on the website are hardware and software for making the home and businesses a better, simpler place to work. And simple seems to be about that. Speak sort of about, from a marketing standpoint, what you were going for with the website and sort of how that reflects what you guys do product wise.
Yeah, well, thanks for that. Yeah, we worked really hard on keeping it simple, and as most marketers know, getting things simple is really the hardest way, right? As they say, if I had more time, I would have written you a shorter letter, right?
Yes. Yes.
So, but it is part of our brand. Our products are meant to be easy to use. They're meant to be simple, plug and play, or just purchase online. But we also, of course, have multiple offerings. So we have to present those on in a single point, right? A sales point. So even that drove the idea of keeping things really simple. So we do present them as sort of vector points on each part of the website to where they can go and find out more information. So that's sort of how the homepage came about, the simplicity of that. So that was the idea.
Are you guys going to be coming back to the States anytime this year? Are you going to do Realcomm, IBCon, any of the other shows? Or was AHR it?
No, I think definitely. We really enjoyed coming over, and we really enjoyed soaking up the market. We really enjoyed seeing just the sheer size. All the different products. Our trade shows are a lot smaller than ARH. And it's certainly a market that we're really interested in. So you'll be seeing more of us.
Well, Elwin, I tell you what, I don't know what's on your schedule, but if you haven't been to Vegas yet, Brian will tell you that the show Realcomm IBCon, and I think it's in June in Vegas, and that is if you guys can make that show at all, that's a fantastic show. But kind of wrapping up, guys. Brian, how do people engage with you guys?
Yeah, so if you want to know about OpSys, you can go to opsyssolutions.com. There you'll find links or information on all of our products, from the Zeno 4.3 capacitive touchscreen, and there's also a link to 7-Ox, which we have our own website. You can find a lot of information on that. You can check out the pricing on it.
I mean, we like to play a little game on Control Trends called Let's Make a Deal. So let's make a deal. What can you guys do for the Control Trends community with this great product of yours?
Well, we can offer 10% off the annual subscription price.
Nice.
Yeah, we'll be happy to do that.
Just type in Control Trends, or Eric sent you, or Bald is Beautiful. What code do they need to put in?
Bald is Beautiful will work, I think, don't you?
There you go.
Yeah, agree.
Thanks so much time for taking to speak with our Control Trends community. We look forward to seeing you guys. I think you guys are destined to do some really great things. Hopefully we'll be seeing you in the States real soon, but thanks again.
Thanks for having us, Eric.
It's been a pleasure, man.
Another week of Control Talk Now, your smart buildings videocast and podcast. I thank you so much for tuning in. Remember, be bold, stay in control, stay relevant. If you're like Hunter Thompson, buy the ticket, take the ride.